just one of the things that we as a community struggle with is a common lexicon. Well, what's an identity provider? What's a relationship provider? What's an attribute provider? And as you saw in Eric's presentation, he's deliberately shifting or attempting to shift the terms of reference from Google being seen as a prototypical identity provider to something else, a relationship manager, etc. Because we found that identity provider doesn't work anymore as a term of reference. And I think it reflects Google and many other companies who are caught in this trap of consumer expectations that on one hand is we want you to have all this information about us in case something bad happens, and the other extreme, which is we don't want you to know anything about us. And so I think companies like Google, Verizon, large and small, are trying to sort out from an economic point of view what their position is in this new ecosystem and how they can optimize their business model. Kenny?
I have two suggestions maybe. One is just follow exactly what you're talking about. I think we should, as a community, take advantage of the upcoming standards body of work that is going to get, expected to get a lot of traction, address this lexicon issue. Because it update the lingo in this whole discussion around identity and so on. It's opportunistic to address them, clear the air and get some up-to-date business motivating factors in the ecosystem now, and try to update those terminology or definitions.
I think that's a great idea.
The second thing is I would like to maybe invite Paul to elaborate what you meant to say, but not really speaking the words. When you say this Dialton concept, what happens if you're mission critical? Are you suggesting that, and you allude to the benefits of having multiple players and so on, are you suggesting at all that there would be some sort of multi-homing kind of survivable arrangements to serve this disastrous scenario that you point to? What happens if your primary IDP partner fails? Are you thinking ahead that you have some other scenario popping up?
I think we need to think ahead. I'm not sure we, Verizon, have necessarily thought as far ahead as we need to, but I'll give you another example where it becomes really evident to us that we need business continuity strategies, which we haven't developed yet. Right? Healthcare. Right? So at the end of the day, the hospital needs to continue to function even in a disaster scenario. A 9/11, a Katrina, that type of scenario where infrastructure becomes unavailable for a variety of reasons. And we don't really see anybody focusing on how do you address those business continuity issues in the cloud. Right? And so as an example, one of the paths we've begun looking down is, do you need essentially CPE, customer premises equipment, that is basically providing failover in situations where your basic infrastructure services aren't available, right? So you could almost think of that in the context of an identity provider or an attribute provider as basically local cache, right? And you're then living with trust latency while infrastructure is not available to connect you to the cloud, but you can still actually conduct business and move forward.
So I think obviously we won't have time to try and solve that set of scenarios, but I think it's a good topic for multi-party discussion.
Absolutely great.
I think I didn't mean just to pick on Google. Another large organization said just beginning of this year that they don't want to be an identity provider either, and that would be the U.S. government. So the U.S. government saying we're not going to be the identity provider. In stark contrast to what we learned yesterday about the government of Canada, that said that is our role. That's the role of government. So I think you're seeing this ecosystem get moved and impacted from multiple sources, not just these companies on stage. Scott?